the longest time, I've had a bone to pick with Broodweaver and the way that Bungie has designed that subclass. Broodweaver is a subclass that is primarily designed to generate threadlings. The super has it. You need to run a specific fragment for it. One of the first aspect you have has it. This aspect generates them. It's all about threadlings. The first strand exotic we got was about threadlings, even though it does practically nothing for actually engaging in a threadling build. What Strand Warlock is actually good at is suspend. So the premier build on Strand Warlock for the longest time has been using the Wanderer and Mind Spawnification slash Weave Walk in place of the Wanderer, dealer's choice, to use Necrotic Grip and these two abilities to really suppress mass amounts of enemies. And it works pretty well. It's a decent build. It's more focused towards really ad heavy activities like Onslaught, but it has its place, but it's nothing too sexy. And one of the biggest problems with this class is Arcane Needle. This is a melee that just doesn't really do anything. It applies Unravel, but Unravel is extremely easy to come by on Strand. Multiple exotics have it on hit. There's a fragment you can get that gives your Strand weapons unraveling rounds. If I can find it here, yeah. Threat of Propagation. So, like, you have 3 charges of this, but then you can just get 1 kill with this fragment on, and all of your Strand weapons are able to do this on it. So it kind of begs the question, like, what is the point of Arcane Needle? First of all, like, one of the weirdest things about this melee is that it has a 3-hit combo animation, but unlike the Titan melee, which they have extreme incentive to spam over and over again for massive damage, there is literally no reason to hit one enemy with 3 arcane needles, and in fact it's insanely detrimental because you'd be wasting 2 more charges of a debuff that you can apply from afar. Minimally useful as it is. So when they were doing the previews for the final shape exotics and they showed this thing, and the only thing we saw was that hitting one enemy with 3 of these things suspended them, I was like, okay, that's the worst exotic I've ever seen in my life. And if that had been the only thing it would have done, it would have been the worst exotic I'd ever seen in my life. Actually, no, that's a lie. Warlock has several worse exotics. But that's neither here nor there. But what actually is going on here with this exotic, Mataiodoxia, I guess I probably butchered that, is a few things. First of all, the 3-hit combo to suspend is a thing. When it says landing multiple arcane needles on the same target, it means all 3. You can't just land 2. But they also emit suspending detonations on kill, and defeating suspended targets grants you melee energy. It's a minimal amount. It's nice. If the exotic had just been this, it would have been decent. The real kicker down here is your arcane needles are stronger against barrier champions. Now I haven't tested this. I assume this means they one-shot like second chance. At least I hope so. If they don't, that's a bummer, but not a deal breaker. But what this means is that you can deal with both unstoppable and barrier champions on one exotic, which is pretty useful. Unstoppable champions are insanely easy to deal with, but barrier champions are not. So this is very much a welcome addition. However, you can still suspend things really easily on Strand. That's the whole Strand build. So it's like, why would I run this on Strand? And if you asked me that question, I would say, first of all, I don't really recommend Strand for endgame PvE. I would rather take like a Dawn Chorus high damage build, or like a Stasis control build, or, or this build. And I think that Prismatic really changes the game for Strand Warlock and Arcane Needle specifically, because it takes two middling subclasses, in my opinion, that have kind of mediocre neutral game, and it takes Devour from Voidwalker, and it changes everything. And the reason this changes everything is because now, when you're using your melee, you're getting Devour and Suspend and Unravel on a kill, which is insanely helpful. And this build is all about that. So let's talk about it. In terms of stat distribution, I'm pretty happy with where this landed. You want max resilience always in every activity in the game. 100 recovery, yep. 100 melee, something I'm not used to doing, but it's actually worth having your melee up for this build. And 70 discipline. You could honestly maybe drop this lower in return for more intellect, but I don't think it's strictly necessary. You are going to be having your grenade up a lot, so the -3 tiers doesn't really matter. You're not really worrying about passive regeneration. You've got other ways to do that. So the number one thing about this build is you are applying a bunch of debuffs to every enemy you fight. And that's why this loadout is so important. So in terms of your kinetic slot weapon, I'm going with the Call. I have Demo Adrenaline Junkie on here, which is something I used for like a Verity's Brow variant of this build. You could easily change what you have on this thing. You could go Slice Hatchling. You could go Subsistence One for All. This weapon is completely stacked. Whatever you have on it doesn't really matter. It's extremely strong. And the reason it's so strong is because in combination with Buried Bloodline, your ammo economy is through the roof. I have taken this build into the Pale Heart, and my biggest problem with it is that it kills everything too quickly. You are going to be blasting through everything you fight that isn't at least 15 levels above you or higher. So the debuff aspects of this build don't even really come into play. But they are there, and that's what I'm going to go into now. So the most important thing about Buried Bloodline is that it gets you Devour after you get multiple kills, or after you kill an orange bar or higher. If you kill one orange bar, you instantly proc Devour. That's not super important for this build because you're going to be getting Devour in other ways, but it's good to know. If you need Devour immediately, you can shoot an orange bar and kill them. What matters is the Catalyst. While Devour is active, this weapon weakens on hit. So during this season specifically, this combo is even stronger because killing void targets gives you a portion of a void overshield. You kill about 4 or 5, it becomes a full overshield, and it turns the 15% that you get from a void weaken, I believe, to 25%. And if you have a stronger source of void weaken like Tractor Cannon, it goes from 30 to 35. So already this weapon's dealing 25% more damage than it normally would on hit just because you have Devour. And then you take a look at what the subclass has going on here. I take Bleak Watcher for endgame. If you're playing casual content, you can easily take Weaver's Call. Weaver's Call works with your choice of special weapon. I like using... I have a Demo Adrenaline Junkie Void machine gun, but for this build, I prefer using either Marcato with Slice Hatchling or this Golden Tricorn Circular Logic to get your Darkness Barb up, because Buried Bloodline is your main weapon. And then you've got your Fragment. So Faceted Awakening. This is just giving you elemental pickups. Sacrifice. While you have a Void buff, in this case, Devour, you get bonus Darkness Transcendence energy. Pumping that Transcendence meter. Same with this. Targets afflicted with stasis or strandy buffs, more light Transcendence, so that would be Unravel or Slow. And then collecting an elemental pickup or destroying a tangle, same idea. And then this, Arc Solar Void. Deal more damage to things afflicted with darkness debuff. So the idea here is you throw down a Bleak Watcher, get your grenade back through Devour, and then you chunk them with either your Transcendence Grenade or your just regular old Vortex. And this build will just have you ripping through shit. And the Suspend is the cherry on top. So feel free to try this one out. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I think it's endgame ready.